Hi, I'm Emily from Magic Voice. This story is The Infinite Mage by Kim Chi-woo. This is the continuation of the manhwa. For those of you who are impatient for the release of the manhwa, you can read this with me. And so let's start. Gallant Island. Chapter 125, Gallant Island 1. Tess fought to contain her laughter when she saw that the two suddenly became less talkative. After being close to her tough and energetic classmates at the fencing academy, meeting students from the Magic Academy felt like meeting people of the same age, but with a younger sibling vibe. But Amy, you're amazing too. When did you learn Esquema? I trained for about 2 years before entering the Magic Academy. It's rare for kids to learn Esquema. It's often said to not be good for growth, isn't it? I didn't really exercise or anything. It just happened. With just those words, Tess understood many gifted children might come out with Spirit Zone, but a schema is a way to overload the body, making it hard to learn at a young age. However, with the red eyes auto memory, it would have been impossible to control the body precisely without going through a rigorous training process. Oh, so you can use the red eye like that. That's amazing. It's not really that special. There's no structure and it only enhances strength a bit. Compared to you, I'm at a child's level. I saw you earlier and you were very fast. If the acceleration had started, the gap would have widened so much that I wouldn't have been able to cast teleportation. Hey, I'm a swordsman, but you're a magician, right? Besides, Rian still can't use a schema, so what? Now that I see it, I understand why the Carmes family is so famous on the continent. Sharon looked at Rian in surprise. Rian, you didn't learn a schema? So, excuse me. So, what about the firewood you cut at our house? I thought it was a scammer because you didn't say anything. Ho ho ho, Rian did that? Borrowing Sir Kuan's words, it must be his stupidly strong muscle power. Do you know how he was at the fencing academy during the final exam? Oh, come on. Why are you so interested in other people's private lives? Rian abruptly cut his words. He wasn't sure about anyone else, but thanks to that, the atmosphere improved, and the others also shared their school life stories. Despite their different fields, they were all students, so the conversation continued without stopping, and so they got to know each other. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Upon reaching the port of Grayas, Sharon and his group found a ship bound for Gallant Island. The Grand Gallias, moored at Dock 6, unfurled its sails as if it had finished preparing to depart. Since all the kingdom's academies were on vacation at the same time, there were more tourists than usual. Dragged along by the crowd, Sharon boarded the ship and found a place on the third deck. There were passenger rooms on the lower deck, but as it was his first time in a boat, he found it enjoyable to take in the view while they sailed. The waves crashed, and the salty breeze blew. It wasn't until the port sank into the horizon that they truly realized they were afloat on the sea. How many hours will it take? I heard it's approximately a 5-hour boat ride from the port of Grayas. I see. If we had arrived a little later, we might have had to leave tomorrow. There are more people heading on the island than I thought. As Sharon said, there were many people on the deck. Half of them were traders, but there were also tourists dressed like nobles. There also seemed to be quite a few people from places other than Creas. As Rian mentioned, it must be a famous island. What kind of place is it? I did some research. As if Amy had been waiting for it, she took out her notebook. Tess, now friends with everyone, initiated a casual conversation. Oh, as expected, you have a meticulous personality. I'd say so. I didn't even think to look it up. While Sharon scratched his head shyly, Amy looked at him disapprovingly. You said you were exploring ruins, but you didn't even do preliminary research beforehand. Haha, no, it's just that there are two types of travelers in the world, those who impulsively set off and those who meticulously research before departing. One might say the former follows an unknown romance, and the latter is efficient, but Amy belonged to the latter. But Sharon didn't belong to either side. It was his first trip ever since he was born, so everything was amazing and unknown. First, let me tell you about Gallant Island. Where we're heading. The area of the site is 1,500 square kilometers. It's a crescent-shaped island, and because the north has a natural cliff, ships must enter the harbor from the south. The west of the island blends with the residence houses and tourist centers, and the ruins of Kerogo are on the east side of the island. It is said that the ruins of Kerogo are the temple of the Kerogo civilization, which established civilization 2,000 years ago. Kerogo. Yes, they have diminished in number now, but some indigenous people still reside in the autonomous district in the center of the island. They are generally dark skinned and short, but they are characterized by sunken eyes and small pupils. Oh, and they tattoo their faces in praise of Ankara. Who is Ankara? It's the name of an ancient god worshipped by the Kairogu civilization, and The natives chew a hard root called lufru, which seems to have hallucinogenic effects. They refer to lufru as the awakening agent of God. They would enter a trance and have divine visions. Their downfall is known to be due to religious conflicts, but there's a theory that internal conflicts arose due to excessive use of lufru. I see. That's fascinating. Perhaps because they abused in the name of God. By the way, my brother said that most of the ruin administrators are from Kerugu, and so you'll be able to see them. However, we won't be able to enter the native autonomous district, as it's forbidden for outsiders. Oh, but my brother said, what did your brother say? Sharon asked, curiously. The older brother Amy mentioned was probably Aris, an explorer traveling around the world. He likely had detailed knowledge of the Kerugu ruins. My brother said this. The downfall of a civilization isn't defined by scholars. If you want to know about them, you'll have to offer something more important than an entrance fee. Sharon nodded with a meaningful expression. So is there something more magnificent in the autonomous district than the Kerugu ruins? I'm not sure. My brother always speaks like that. He thinks posing riddles makes him sound deeper. Haha, but I find this more intriguing. Something more important than an entrance fee. I wonder what that could be. Sharon's heart raced upon hearing Ara's words, and Alpea's. It became clear that the Kerugu ruins weren't just a tourist attraction. When Sharon couldn't contain his excitement like a child, Rian felt good in a different way. If the master was filled with enthusiasm, the duty of a knight became even more significant. Regardless of the secrets hidden in the ruins, he was determined to protect Sharon. Sharon, by the way. When do you plan to go? We're not going directly after we arrive, are we? Right, it's vacation time, so we should have some fun first. Then I'll have to secure accommodation first. Let's head to the resort as soon as we leave the port. There is a place where we can swim on the western beach. There are also plenty of sightseeing spots and famous seafood restaurants. Eager to see the southern country as soon as possible, Tess clenched her fists and quivered with excitement. Oh, that sounds like so much fun. There were still more than 4 hours left, but the excitement of the journey quickly devoured the time. And finally, the island they longed for appeared in sight. Look, that's Galliant Island. The passengers at the bow of the boat shouted, pointing at the distant island. In response to their calls, Sharon and his group ran to the front of the deck. They were greeted by cliffs of the northern part of Galliant Island. It was as if the lush forest has been split by a sword, leaving behind towering vertical cliffs. The passengers cheered with excitement. Finally, we've arrived. It looks so cool. Wow, the color of the water is fantastic. I want to swim right now. However, the merchants were still lounging with their luggage scattered around them. They knew they still had to go around the island for another 30 minutes because the port was in the south. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Port of Gallant. The port was crowded with people, merchants getting off the ship, and those rushing towards the boat caused chaos everywhere. In comparison, tourists could only disembark later, and Sharon's group also waited for the crowd to disperse before stepping onto land. As soon as they disembarked, they felt the heat of the southern country. Creyas had already entered early autumn, but it was still summer on Gallant Island. Once the merchants were gone, the port was filled with people from a different line of work. They were vendors trying to attract tourists to their shops. Come, come to the Dolphin Inn. You can have a delightful day with the cheapest accommodation fare on the island. My wife's cooking is also excellent. If you want to taste authentic southern seafood, come to our restaurant. We also have carriages ready for comfortable transportation. We can carry your luggage. We have strong porters waiting. Sharon and the group were overwhelmed by the vendors' clamor. While no one had approached them openly yet, it was clear that they were attracting attention. Firstly, not being adults gave them high points. Additionally, they were dressed in high quality clothing and carried top notch weapons, which was enough to draw attention from the vendors. Of course, not all of them were honest businessmen. On the opposite side of the dock, in an alley, some gangs were tracking their prey, making money illegally. Hoo hoo hoo. Well then, who shall we steal from today? A boy named Jace glanced at the crowd, his eyes lighting up. Behind him, two of his friends inspected the same area. What differentiated them from the outside vendors was that they didn't own shops. They were, after all, alley ruffians who made money through their cunning tongues. The temperament of the mainland ruffians and the island ruffians was different. Living in a floating space in the vast sea, they had to ignore the rules of the world just to get a piece of bread. Jace, in particular, had been rebellious since childhood and had grown up amidst much criticism. His pride had led nobles to beat him more than once or twice. But even that experience was now just a useful tool to earn money. Wow, there are so many people due to the holiday season. Geez, we can make good money today. Still, half of them don't have a penny. They may seem rich, but we need to choose carefully to succeed. Geez was carefully choosing these targets. However, his friends needing to earn a day's tribute were getting impatient. Geez, hurry up and choose. The others are taking them all. I got it. Just wait. Jeeves scrutinized the port with eagle-like eyes, but even before he finished scanning the scene, his gaze stopped at Pier 3. Four people of similar age were conversing, and among them, a red-haired girl caught Jeeves' attention. Hey, hey, that's it. Let's go for that group. See? Two boys and two girls. Really? But isn't there a huge guy there, and he's carrying a sword? Let's pick someone else. These are genuine. Who am I? The ruler of the port. Jeez. The bigger they are, the more cowardly. Who else would carry a sword to a tourist destination unless they're crazy? Oh, it seems a bit risky. No way. Geez, do you have that mental illness of falling for a woman you've never met? What if they're mercenaries? Stop. Can't you see they're students? Students can't lay a finger on us anyway. We'll pursue an aggressive strategy. So back me up well. Don't cover even if they're nobles. Jeez pulled his two friends from the alley. He was nervous that other vendors might snatch them on the way to the pier, but as the girl's face gradually cleared, those thoughts dissipated. What's up with this girl? She's really pretty. It was natural romantic notion for an island boy to fall for a foreign girl, but this was the first time he felt something deeper beyond mere infatuation. Jeez quickly regained his composure and approached. If he left it as it was, they would be taken by the other vendors. End of chapter 125. Chapter 126, Gallant Island 2. Hey, welcome to Gallant. Are you here on vacation? Jeez waved his hand in a friendly tone. Regardless of their noble status, the rule in this world was not to use honorifics towards the victims. In a way, it was like risking their lives to make money, but even if they got into trouble, they would only have to lay low for a month. It was because there were few cases of those who came to play on the other side of the sea, causing harm again. Yes, I came to have fun with my friends. Sharon smiled and welcomed him. Amy, on the other hand, had a frowning expression. She knew why they were approaching because she had been in touch with the world of darkness when she commanded some alley ruffians in her childhood. You seem to be students. What academy? Surely a prestigious one. It's the Alphaeus Magic Academy. Ah, I know that one. Many come to play because it's nearby. Amy regretted. Even revealing that she was a student was a problem, but it was no different from being prey if she revealed her alma mater. But you have a good physique to be a wizard. What? We're from the Kaizen Swordsmanship Academy. We're tall because we're sword warriors, idiot. As expected, G's triggered Tess. She was proud of her figure but didn't want to hear that she was big and was paired with Rian. Haha, sorry, I lacked tact. I was trying to compliment you. Maybe you took it the wrong way. Jeez thought it was all over. The reason these rogues could be proud even in front of the nobles was that they were not subject to the established rules of the world. Excuse me. On the other hand, the noble was in a position where there was much that bound them. The Alphaeus School of Magic and the Kaizen Swordsmanship Academy were known for their discipline. If they caused trouble in a tourist spot, they couldn't avoid punishment. Anyway, welcome. I'm Jeez, the local guide. If you hire me, I can take care of everything from sightseeing to accommodation. We haven't finished discussing yet. We'll think about it. Chiron repeated what he had told the other tout who had approached them so far. But G's gang was different from them. As he had already grasped their weakness, he persisted and insisted on hiring his group. Oh, why are you doing this? You attend a good academy, so you must have money, right? We're really poor people. Did you come to spend money anyway? It was then that Sharon realized that he was not a simple tout. Rian and Tess' eyes seemed to realize the same thing, and their gaze cooled. G's friends, who met the eyes of the warrior swordsman, shivered and stepped back, but G's didn't blink. Hoo, they can't do anything to us anyway. Having been a seller since he was young and growing up, he was interested in the inside information. The Alphaeus Magic Academy strictly prohibits the use of magic outside the academy. Since the Magic Academy was like that, needless to say, the Swordsmanship Academy, which emphasizes chivalry, was different. Of course, there were times when they were caught and beaten by a student with a bad temper, but wouldn't he have to endure such a thing to get through the month? Furthermore, based on that experience, these tightrope walking skills had already reached their peak. Don't worry, and just trust me. I'll tell you the most fun way to play on Gallant Island. Come on, what kind of man lacks guts? Sprinkle some money in front of the lovely ladies, huh? Are you coming? All right then. Shall I carry the luggage? Just a moment. We'll discuss this one last time. Oh, fine, but it would be really bad if you refuse after coming this far. Jeez was already holding their heavy luggage with both hands. Sharon looked at his friends with an uncomfortable expression. This was the first time they faced such a situation, and G's attitude extended to both sides of the line that made it difficult to confront him openly. What should we do? Should we trust this guy? You know the name of our academy. That's why he's so bold. He knows we can't act recklessly. Upon hearing Amy's words, Tess' annoyance grew. It was a shady method, but definitely effective. By her nature, she should have thrown a punch already. Rian, on the other hand, showed no particular concern. The only criterion he had in mind was Sharon's safety. I really don't care. If Sharon wants to, I'll just follow. If he tries to force us even after Sharon says he doesn't want to, then I'll just beat him up. For Rian, this trip wasn't just a vacation. It was the first time he was out of town with Sharon after their nights of oath. One day, countless such situations would be encountered, so it was good to experience this and that in advance for the future. Ah, my arm hurts. Can't you decide quickly? All of this costs money too. This idiot is really. Sharon prevented Tess from approaching G's. As long as the Academy's honor was at stake, he couldn't allow it. It's fine. We'll hire you. How much will it cost? Haha, good decision. I'll give you a special discount because it's you. Just give me 5 gold coins. Eh? 5 gold? Sharon widened his eyes. 5 gold coins just to hire a guide? 5 gold coins. It was an outrageous scam. He didn't know the island's cost of living, but no matter how expensive it was, it didn't seem to exceed 1 gold. Isn't that too expensive? What are you saying? Let me tell you. If you pay 5 gold, you don't have to do anything. I'll take care of everything. I'll rent you a carriage, arrange accommodation, and show you the tourist attractions. It's cheap enough. Amy was upset. From the beginning, she didn't want to cause a scene, so she remained still. But now that he had found their weak spot, he even intended to squeeze them. They probably wouldn't even be proper guides. Furthermore, even if they were, 5 gold would be an extravagant amount, 10 times the market price. Ha, this is no. Ha, this is why you should have cut the grass at the root. Amy remembered the past and regretted it. Why did she forget? The fact that these kinds of people would only become bolder if not dealt with firmly. But no matter how much 5 gold is a bit. This is a tourist destination, of course. It's more expensive than the market price. Well, still, never mind. Let's give it to him and move on. Amy rummaged in her pockets. It would be counterproductive to have those kinds of people around. If they backed down once, they would surely ask for more money, taking advantage of their perceived weakness. Here, take this 5 gold and get lost. Amy threw gold coins at G's feet. Tiny gold coins bounced at his feet. Wow, real gold coins. G's friends hurriedly picked up the gold coins that had fallen to the ground. G's, on the other hand, didn't move as if he had frozen. If someone else had scattered the money, he might have picked it up and run away, just like his friends. But in front of her gaze, which was like looking at an insect, he couldn't crawl on the ground at all. What are you doing now? Are we beggars? Are you any different? I don't need a guide or anything, so just disappear from my sight. This is serious. Did you just say all that? Now, wait a moment. Let's not get excited. Sharon tried to intervene with a puzzled expression. It's annoying to be cheated, but he didn't expect Amy to react this way either. Sharon, it's fine. He asked for it. What can this little thing do? They're just scammers. They'll use the excuse of showing us around to scum us even more. They're human trash that can't be reformed. These friends shuddered. Their business was exactly as he described. Sharon frowned and turned away. Amy, stop. What do you mean stop? We give up, and they think we're scared and backing off. Rather, in this place, but still, stop. Amy finally closed her mouth. Since Sharon wasn't a noble, he might have felt uncomfortable witnessing the scene before. But if they didn't do something like this, those guys would stick to them like leeches sucking their blood until they died. Jace gritted his teeth and contained his anger. It was a life he had endured solely with his pride. No matter how much he was insulted by nobles, his heart never broke. Geez, let's stop and go. We have the money. Give it back. What? Give me back the gold. Do you want to be treated like this? Don't you have any pride as men of the island? Juice took the gold coins from his friends one by one. Indeed, the weight thrilled him just by holding it, but he clenched his fists as if to suppress his desire. Then he turned his cold eyes towards Amy. Arrogant nobles. I envy you guys, throwing around 5 gold. How does that feel? I can't even imagine, right? Juice lifted his chin as if to boast and scattered the gold coins in front of Amy's feet. The coins emitted the bright light and rolled around the area. Aha, is that how it feels? It's fantastic. Guys, let's go. Jace took his friends and entered an alley. Amy was speechless at his audacity. However, the objects of her anger had already disappeared. Oh, those guys, Sharon. Why did you stop me? Those guys need to be taught a lesson. I know, but if you really dislike it, you can express your anger or refuse. There was no need to go that far. What do you mean? Are you saying I look down on people because I have money? It doesn't seem that way to me, but it ended up looking like that. You're still saying that even knowing what kind of guys they are, you were also bullied when you were young, right? Sharon bit his lip. Maybe Amy was right, but no matter how despicable the other party was, he didn't want to see her degrading the dignity of other people. Okay, let's go. Let's get a courage first. When Sharon didn't say anything, Amy turned around and walked away. Tess, who was looking at her, scratched her head with a worried expression. The situation has become ambiguous. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As they entered alleyway 3 at the port, Jeez argued with his friends. They were supposed to receive their share when the boat arrived, but now that all the visitors had left, all they could do was argue. Jeez, why? Hell, let's turn that money. Let's return that money. 5 gold is a lot. We could live days without paying any tribute. Don't you have any pride? He throws money in front of us, and you want to take it like beggars? And so what? After all, money is money. I can't do it like this. Damn girl. Even if she ignores me, I have respect for myself. Jeez clenched his fists and trembled, but his friends couldn't understand it. What was bothering him? Of course, the woman's behavior, who threw the money, was a great humiliation for them. But the arrogant attitude of the nobles wasn't something recent anyway. Jace, be honest. Were you in love with her? What? Why would I like a girl like that? You always defend your pride in front of a girl you like. But that girl is a noble. It can never work. And seeing how she easily handed over 5 gold, she must be of a very high rank among the nobles. And so what? What if she's a noble? I'm Jeez. I'm destined to be the ruler of the port. At that moment, they heard footsteps from the dark corner of the alley. With the characteristic sound of the heels of boots hitting the ground, Jeez's hair stood on end. His friends too. There was only one person at the port who made footsteps like this. Hey, Jeez. It was a middle-aged man of robust build, a fierce impression with a gaze sharp as a venomous snake. It was Falcoa, the leader of the Freeman gang, the gang to which Jeez and his friends belonged. Jeez shivered. Falcoa was cruel. He didn't care about being beaten, as befitting his penchant for violence. Whether the odds were 10 to 1 or 100 to 1, he would charge and beat anyone he could. No wonder he was known as the Madman of Gallant. Ah, brother Falcoa. Falcoa stroked his chin and encircled Jeez with his arms. A repugnant odor pricked Jeez' nostrils. Like a drug addict, he never removed the pipe from his mouth. Give it to me. You have the money, right? It's not here. Not there. There was a cold light in Falcoa's eyes, anticipating that they would have to pay for this. G's friends fell to the ground. For forgive us. Those kids said they wouldn't take our courage. We stuck to them until the end, but they threatened us. Is that so? Then what was that you threw before? Was that not money, but crap? G's heart sank. He pretended not to know, but it seemed Falcoa had been watching from start to finish. Was this how a frog feels when bitten by a snake's fangs? His breath grew tense due to fear. Ha ha. What do I do with these cute things? End of chapter 126. Chapter 127. Gallant Island 3. Sharon and his group rented a carriage outside the port and headed to the western resort. The wide stretch of sandy beach was beautiful even from afar. Numerous bustling shops and accommodations were built like mountain village houses along the mountain. The place Rian rented was a villa located halfway up the mountain. Like a building for nobles, it had enough space for 4 people, and the view where the sea opened up was satisfying. Sharon looked at the sea from the terrace. The blue sea surged and flowed towards the white beach. While watching people calmly bathing in the sea, he could momentarily forget the unpleasant dispute at the port. Sharon and the others packed their belongings and lit a fire in the fireplace. After that, they gathered in the living room and relaxed for a while. Having left in the morning and being in the afternoon without eating anything other than snacks, they were hungry. Tess, thinking about what kind of food to eat to spread rumors that she ate well, clapped as if she had come up with a good idea. Okay, why don't we cook ourselves? Rian turned to her with a surprised expression. What, can you cook? Hoo hoo, of course. Did you think a swordsman can't cook? It would be the case if it's military-style combat rations. What do you think people are? I'm telling you, I can cook well. Rian made a surprised expression. He hadn't thought that the girl who looked like a vagabond would say she was confident in her cooking. But this was exactly what Tess wanted. If she could imprint a different side of her in Rian, this trip would be a great success. I'll cook the most delicious dish for you, so you just need to buy the ingredients. How about that? Is that so? Honestly, it's a bit strange to go out and eat on the first day, right? Sharon, what do you think? I'm fine too. The food you cook outdoors is always tasty, isn't it? Amy cautiously opened her mouth. So, should I cook too? All eyes focused on Amy. Of course, it didn't seem at all like she could cook, unlike Tess. However, they didn't expect the demanding person to prepare food for someone else by herself. Tess felt Amy's heart with the intuition of a woman. It's specifically for Sharon, right? She has a cute personality that's different from what she seems. Tess fully supported her. If this opportunity allowed the two to reconcile, it couldn't be better. Great, let's have a cooking showdown. Rian versus Sharon. You two, go get the ingredients and we'll prepare ourselves to cook. How does that sound? Everyone agreed, and Sharon and Rian headed to the market with a list of ingredients that the girls had written. As soon as the boys left, Tess, standing side by side washing dishes, looked at Amy with playful eyes and asked, "Is this your first time?" What do you mean? I know just by looking at you. Wasn't this your first fight with Sharon? I could clearly see that you were nervous even while arguing. Amy hurriedly turned her gaze to the dishes. It's not a fight. Not the first time, and certainly not a lover's quarrel. How cute, how she denies it. It's said that mages are sinister because their inside and outside are different, but in this case it seemed quite cute. Still, you keep a meticulous list of ingredients, right? Who, now that I see it, are you being cautious? Amy stopped washing the dishes and started thinking. Only among girls, it wasn't something she couldn't say. In the end, she gave in to Tess' probing and poured out her true feelings. Sharon sometimes feels weak. That's quite poetic. Amy laughed shyly, thinking it was strange even for herself. But it's true. Should I say he's transparent, like he could disappear at any moment right in front of me? It's probably because Sharon has a different perspective than others. It could be. Most people view the world from their own perspective, but some people expand their vision to include others. Perspectives, usually, those people are called empathetic. By that standard, I'm definitely not empathetic. I have no idea what others think. Me neither, but Sharon is different. He's kind and considerate, but the most important factor is his different perspective. Tess smiled as if realizing something. Aha, so you mean he didn't stand up for you against those jerks, right? Isn't that it? Amy scratched her cheek, embarrassed. Well, that's. But if he were just a naive guy, I would have thought of it that way. But Sharon is different. Somehow, a different perspective. What other perspective is there besides that? Amy raised her index finger and pointed to the ceiling. Perhaps an omniscient point of view? Omniscient. Yes, when Sharon starts to see the world from an omniscient point of view, he faints. He becomes different from us and any other human being. That's probably because he has an extremely high point of view that sees even his own existence as nothing more than a mere dot. Amy vividly remembered it even now, the moment Sharon unhesitatingly opened his immortal function to save all the students. How could he do that? It was different from suicide. Giving life for others was 1,000 times harder than choosing death for one's own pain. When Sharon becomes transparent, the boundary between him and others collapses. He becomes one human being, just like everyone else. From that viewpoint, looking at the world, what do you think Sharon governs? I believe it's balance. If one side of the scale tilts even slightly, Sharon wouldn't hesitate to move to the other side, even if that scale is death. Hey, that's impossible. Where would such a person exist? That's literally a prophet, isn't it? But it's true, because I'm the one benefiting from that balance. No, all the students of the Magic Academy were saved by Sharon. Tess couldn't close her gaping mouth. One student saved the lives of all the students. A look of sadness crossed Amy's face. I only had that kind of thought. When Sharon stopped me, maybe I'm just a tiny dot, observed from that high place. Sharon is different from me. No, he's different from anyone else. That's why he's excellent as a mage, but sometimes he's also disappointing. Tess gently shook Amy's shoulder. Amy, don't think like that. Sharon genuinely cares for you. That's why he asked you, knowing it was a couple's trip. You're different from ordinary people. Walking down the street, you'll always be Carmi's Amy. Amy smiled at Tess, sincere encouragement. But that didn't change her mind. How much value can the existence of others have for Sharon? Amy, just tell Sharon, why didn't you take my side? I'm so upset and frustrated. I can't sleep. If you say it like that, it will be fine. Amy smiled and shook her head. Sharon probably knows it too. He didn't refute my words because he understood them. Don't worry too much. It will be resolved soon. It's just that, as you said, it's our first time, so it's awkward. Tess, with her straightforward personality, was frustrated. If emotions are hurt, shouldn't you call the person involved and sort it out? However, Amy ended the conversation saying, there's nothing to talk about because they both understand. Sigh, I don't know how a mage thinks. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Sharon and Rian arrived at the general store alleyway. Since the ingredient list written on each person's paper was different, if they were to look around all the shops sprawling like a maze, they might miss dinner time. Sharon thought it would be better to split up. Let's split here. I think we can return to the villa after buying the items. Should we? But can you carry everything alone? It will be heavy. Sharon looked at Rian with an absurd expression. No matter how weak he might be, can't he lift garlic, onion, and pepper? Despite having taken the knight's oath, he didn't need to worry about carrying a shopping basket. That's enough. I'll do the shopping myself, so make sure not to get lost. You know this is a cooking competition, right? The loser has to wash the dishes. All right, I'll make sure you and Amy get closer by washing the dishes. It'll be better to expect a loss if you want to make up with Amy. Invent what? We didn't even fight. Eh? Didn't you fight at the port? That's why it's so awkward between you two now. Amy isn't so narrow minded. We just had a little difference of opinion. It's something that can easily happen when we exchange our arguments. Haha, silly. That's what we call a fight. Sharon stopped talking. It was the same in the past, and it's the same now. He strangely felt a sense of self disgust when Rian called him silly. Anyway, that's enough. I'll buy vegetables first, so I'll see you at the villa. Then I've got to start with the meat. Go for it. Sharon stared at Rian, who ran towards the butcher. Just by seeing him run, he couldn't imagine how much meat he'd buy. Sharon checked the note that Amy had written. He didn't know what kind of dish it was, but there were no hard-to-find ingredients. However, the quantity of ingredients was larger than Rian's, so he had to diligently work to make it in time. Sharon wandered for about 30 minutes and bought most of the ingredients at the same time. He took the opportunity to do some sightseeing, and maybe because it was a resort, there were many unique and mysterious shops. Vending machines selling products and games were popular, and there was a fair amount of street performances and parades to watch. A commercial district like this must have a great influx of tourists continuously, focusing on entertainment. As expected, the streets were bustling, and the carefree laughter that couldn't be felt on the continent colored the sky of the southern country. Wow, there are many fun shops. I should come here to have fun tomorrow. After finishing his shopping, Sharon headed towards the villa. At that moment, the door of the shop in front of him opened and the woman fell to the ground as if she had been pushed. Kya, Kya? Sharon's head tilted at the strange cry, but, but he quickly regained his senses and approached. She was a woman who appeared to be around 25. She had short hair, and the bangs were cut straight across her eyebrows. But thanks to her pretty face, it didn't look ridiculous. Why? Why are you doing this? What did I do wrong? The woman who got up from the ground covered her chest with both arms. She wore a dress that exposed her chest like a bar girl. Her eyebrows were thin and her eyes sharp, but her expression is in front of the huge man seemed as innocent as that of a herbivore. Haha, why are you like that? I'm just asking you to hang out with me. I'm not that kind of woman. No, what do you mean you're not? It's obvious when you're walking around a tourist spot dressed like that, so why not hang out with me? The person intimidating the woman is a man named Gamos, who was a famous rich man on Gallant Island. He was a huge man, but his body was full of fat instead of muscles, and his abdominal fat was particularly severe. However, the power of money seemed tremendous as he was flanked by tall bodyguards on both sides. You should come with me when I ask you kindly. Honestly, you're not in a position to refuse. Help me. Please, help. Even though Gamos grabbed the woman's wrist and dragged her, no one tried to stop him. Tourists didn't want to get involved in dangerous situations in a foreign place. Plus, the locals feared Gamos's influence. End of chapter 127. End of chapter 127. Chapter 128. Gallant Island 4. Hey, stop! Sharon took a step forward and shouted. Gamos looked at Sharon with a ridiculous expression, wondering what a clueless guy jumped in, but in reality, he was just a teenager still, even holding a basket in both hands. What's the matter, kid? Where did this brat come from? Please, let go of that woman. Everyone is watching and the guards will be here soon. Haha, guards, do you know who I am? What difference does it make if I know who you are? If you keep doing this, I'll go personally and call the guards. As Gamos loosened his grip, the woman quickly darted behind Sharon. Despite being a child, among the many people in the crowd, Sharon was the only person she could trust. Please, save me. This man was trying to. Gamos frowned and stepped closer. How pitiful. You're making me angry. Hey kid, I'm a merchant here in Gallant Island. That woman stole my stuff. She tried to steal fine porcelain and broke it. Eh, porcelain? Sharon blinked. If the man's words were true, then the woman behind him would be a thief. Ultimately, trying to get compensation with her body because she tried to steal something was an ambiguous situation to take sides in. That's right. Of course, I asked for her body on the premise of the ceramics, but since she broke my stuff, shouldn't she compensate in some way? If you call the guards, she will be the one arrested. When Sharon turned around, the woman who looked him in the eyes quickly averted her gaze. Is what he said true? Yes, I'm sorry, but I really needed that ceramics. I really need it. Ha ha ha. There's no case in the world where someone absolutely needs ceramics. If you need something, it's money. I was just trying to help you make money. See, kid, it's not good to get involved with women like her. Of course, unless they're looking for a partner for the night. Isn't that right, folks? The onlookers laughed along with Gamos. It wasn't a particularly funny situation, but it was because the tension which had been overlaid with various factors was relieved all at once. It seems you came to hang out with your friends, so why don't you hurry up and cook something delicious? This is what happens when you carelessly meddle in adult affairs. The woman tugged at Sharon's sleeve and pleaded, please, don't leave. I don't know what that man will do if you leave. Why don't you confess? If you talk to the guard, it will be resolved. I absolutely can't. That man has strict control over this island. Please, believe me. How much is the ceramics? I don't know the exact price, but I'd say around 50 silver coins. Sharon was lost in thought. It's not difficult for him to fork out 50 silver for a woman, but is it really right to pay compensation just because he has money? He thought that just as he had no right to judge another person's sins, he also had no right to forgive another person's sins. Sharon made a decision and approached Gamosin. I'll compensate for the ceramics instead, so please let this moment go. Gamos squinted in surprise. Of course, 50 silver coins aren't much money for nobles, but what could be the reason for him to protect the woman even against this his powerful position on Gallant? Ah, I see you want to take her for yourself. Well, where could a kid like you get such beauty for only 50 silver coins? Sharon's forehead wrinkled. He felt uncomfortable with Gamos's words, who only saw things from a lustful perspective. I don't think like that. Do people think everyone is like you? Then why intervene? This woman is a thief. You could hand her over to the guard and it will be fine. Whatever this woman has done, it's not for me to judge. However, the reason I'm willing to use 50 silver is that I believe she shouldn't pay a higher price for the crime she committed. If you plan to do something else to this woman, please accept this money and let her go. The woman who heard Sharon's words brightened her eyes as if she realized something. Gamose, on the other hand, snorted, just pay 50 silver. Here, 50 silver coins. Now, please let the woman go. Gamos stared at the silver coin in Sharon's palm. To be honest, he couldn't feel good about this situation. The woman was too precious to let go, and he didn't like Sharon's attitude. From his point of view, he seemed like an ignorant child who lost his senses due to the woman's beauty. No need for money. I have plenty, but I have a condition. Condition? What is it? I know you're a brave man who sacrifices for a woman, so can you apologize to me on her behalf? I mean, bow your head to me in front of everyone. The attention of the spectators centered on Sharon. It was uncommon for someone to accept another's humiliation, but Sharon stepped forward without hesitation. All right, if that's what it takes for you to forgive her, I'll apologize. Don't just speak, bow. I want a very sincere apology. Sharon bowed deeply. I apologize on behalf of this lady for stealing the ceramic. Please forgive her. The man lowered his eyes arrogantly and looked at Sharon. Then he burst into laughter and stepped forward, throwing a hook. Seeing the fist speeding towards his eyes, Sharon reflexively stepped back. The man's large hand whizzed by, nearly grazing his nose. What? What are you doing? Gamos clicked his tongue as if expecting this and pointed at Sharon. See? You dodged it. You didn't really feel sorry. If you had taken the hit, you might have saved the woman. But you dodged it. You were afraid of getting hit. See now? The world isn't so easy. If you can refute it, do so. You're just pretending to be good. People agreed with Gamos's words. If Sharon really wanted to save the woman, he could have closed his eyes and taken the hit. But Sharon dodged it. In the end, that meant he was hypocritical. Scornful voices flew from here and there. He seemed so virtuous, but now he shows his true colors. I thought he was a saint. Anyway, kids these days are so rude. They think acting like this makes them look cool. Sharon couldn't understand the crowd's reactions. What's wrong with me dodging? You don't even know how to be embarrassed. Everyone watching is disappointed in you. You acted like a great apostle of justice, but it was all a pretext. Sharon's face turned embarrassed. What are you talking about? Doing good deeds, even if they're just for show, is much better than doing evil like you, isn't it? What? That's. Gamos was speechless. Even those who had been ridiculing them couldn't hide their confusion. The woman who had been observing the situation from a distance came to a conclusion close to certainty. My assumption was correct. This boy is a mage. A mage doesn't ask who is the right answer. What they questioned was, what is the right answer? This boy doesn't rationalize himself, his method of recognizing facts, and interfering and, in- and inferring the correct answer was a common thought process among mages. The woman mocked the speechless people. Humph, none of you thought to help. You just want to denigrate another person's good deeds. That's why you're unsuccessful. Anyway, now it was time for her to make her move. While everyone's attention was on Sharon and Gamos, it was best for her to slip away. The woman, slowly moving along the wall, quickly disappeared around the corner. Meanwhile, Gamo's face was flushed. From his entrance until now, the boy who had been constantly offending him was now insulting his worldview, all in front of numerous people. Kid, it seems you've picked the wrong person. Gamos's voice dropped heavily. It was his original voice stripped of the merchant's facade. Then, the sharp-witted bodyguards drew the swords they carried around their waist. The intention to kill is only a concept, but it is a force that affects reality. Simply the presence of a sharp, long sword in the space makes a human imagine death. Why are you just standing there? Go and beat him up. Following Gamos's instructions, the bodyguards rushed from left to right. They wouldn't hastily kill someone, but they were ready to strike if necessary. At that moment, dirt and dust flew into the bodyguard's eyes. Another stone flew and struck the forehead of another bodyguard. Sharon looked towards where the stone had flown. In the alley, the woman from before was standing, holding a bunch of stones. She kept throwing stones. As the bodyguards hesitated and stepped back, she grabbed Sharon's wrist and ran down the alley. Let's run. Follow me this way. Huh? Excuse me. Sharon knew from the start that the woman had left, yet he pretended not to know because he thought it was for the best. Gamos, with whom he held a direct conversation, was someone who would make a woman pay much more than the punishment for her sins. But why did you come back? Quickly, it's a headache if you get tangled up with them. The two ran through the alley that seemed like a maze. Thanks to the woman navigating the intricate path, they disappeared from the sight of the bodyguards in an instant. Gamos's voice came from the marketplace. Go and catch them all. I'll ruin them completely. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The warehouse was filled with a feverish heat of violence. Falcoa's kicks mercilessly crashed against G's side as he fell to the ground and curled up. Each blow felt like his heart stopping. He was so overwhelmed by fear that he couldn't even remember where he was being hit. The only sensations he could perceive were pain. You piece of trash. You like getting beaten, huh? You must like it, so you'll get more. G's friends were crouched in the corner of the warehouse. Their eyes were swollen from crying, but the tears showed no signs of stopping. Please forgive us. We'll go out and earn some. He'll die at this rate. Oh, really? So from now on, do you want to get beaten? Their friends' bodies froze. Falcoa's face, with wide open eyes, looked like a demon. If he wanted, he could kill Jeez as much as he wanted. But Falcoa deliberately avoided hitting him in the face. That fact was even more terrifying. Falcoa grabbed Jeez's hair and pulled it forcefully. Despite being completely exhausted, Jeez sprang to his feet. Although he wasn't hit in the head, his eyes were vacant. It felt as if his brain was paralyzed due only to mental shock. I'm sorry. I did wrong. Does it hurt, huh? Tell me. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? Falcoa slapped Jeez on the cheek. Although it wasn't a particularly powerful attack, Jeez convulsed each time he was hit. His friends burst into tears again at the sight of him killing someone. Falcoa kicked Jeez to the ground. It wasn't for any particular reason. If he had to question it, was it because he felt the effect of the drug he was using was diminishing? You returned 5 gold because your pride was hurt? Well done. Very well done, Jeez. I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. Jeez felt aggrieved. He wanted to fight back, but he was too terrified. Faced with Falcoa's madness, his pride was useless. He felt he could do anything if only he could get out of here. End of chapter 128. Chapter 129, Gallant Island 5. I lost 5 gold coins. Returning what I got is the worst in the world. That woman should compensate for the loss. Falcoa lifted Jiz's face. Jiz, whose jaw was pulled up until his waist almost broke, couldn't even breathe. A little more pressure and his spine might have snapped. It hurts, doesn't it? It should. I'm incredibly strong. Stop, please. Do you want me to relieve your pain? Chew this, then it won't hurt at all. Excuse me. Jeez turned his gaze even amid the difficulties. In Falcoa's hand there was a root. Born and raised on the island, he knew it. It was loop, the stimulant of the natives. As a drug used for ritual awakenings, its addiction was incomparable to other drugs. Weren't there rumors that the Karugu tribe became extinct due to excessive use of loop? Please, I beg you, anything but that. Jeez pleaded earnestly. He had assumed that once addicted to loop, his life would end. He would go through life in the gutter, and his sister, who was the only family member, would inevitably be driven to the streets in the end. Falcoa, as if expecting his reaction, popped the loop into his mouth that he had offered Jeez. What about his addiction? If one couldn't live without loop, then keep using it for a lifetime. You're the coward of the world. This is God's stimulant. Anyway, what are you going to do now? Will you bring her to me? Huh? What do you mean by bring her? Who? That red-haired girl. She seemed pretty. I bet I could sell her for a high price. Hehehe. Of course, I'll have to sell her second-hand. Jeez was taken aback. To think he planned to sell a noble woman into someone else's human trafficking. However, if it was Falcoa's mental state that was addicted to loop, it was more than plausible. He lost his mind. He's insane. Falcoa was the acting head of the Freeman organization. He was the highest ranking person Jeeves had encountered, but he was nothing more than a thug, a contact. He never met the captain, Freeman, but one of his mandates was to prohibit human trafficking. If you do that, you'll be expelled from the organization. It goes against the code of AK. A studded boot twisted G's jaw. His mind was spinning, and he couldn't think of anything. Falcoa grabbed G's by the head and lifted him. The moment he heard his cold voice, G's regained his focus. What? You want me to bring your little sister? That. G's body trembled. Anger and fear mixed, and emotions arose that couldn't be guessed by taste. My sister was a precious existence that couldn't be traded for anything. She didn't want to show her such a dirty world. Oh, didn't I tell you? Actually, I like your sister. Could you take this opportunity to introduce me to her? A rotten smell emanated from Falcoa's mouth as he chewed on loop. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Chiron and the woman managed to escape from Gamos's bodyguards after running through the alleys for 30 minutes. As expected from a trained individual, their speed was fast, but the psychological warfare using the locations to turn around was effective. The two leaned against a wall, catching their breath for a moment. They had run so much that their mouths tasted like blood, and their legs were shaking. The woman chuckled under her breath as she panted and glanced at Chiron. Heh, you have surprisingly good endurance, don't you? I thought you'd stop running because you look so delicate. If I give up, they'll catch me. I'm dying here. But are you okay? I'm Marcia. Escaping from trouble is a second nature to me. So this is nothing. Let's take a break somewhere. I'm thirsty for a beer. I'll buy you one as thanks. Sharon was puzzled. Marcia showed no signs of tension despite being pursued. Moreover, wanting to drink beer means she has money. So why did she steal? Oh, I think I should go now. You can't wander at this moment. Let's wait in a place I know. Gamos is cruel but foolish. He'll forget soon. Just hold on for an hour. He'll get distracted and won't chase us anymore. And most importantly, I'm scared. Can you stay with me for a while? Marcia rolled her tongue and narrowed her eyes. Though not enchanted by her pretty appearance, Sharon finally decided to follow her. Above all, if Gamos caught him now, things would spiral out of control. All right, but I don't think I can stay long because my friends are waiting for me. Fine, let's wait for Gamos's men to give up. Come closer. Marcia led Sharon through winding alleys to a dimly lit bar. He wondered if anyone would come to this place for a drink, but it was surprisingly crowded. This place hasn't changed at all over the years. Didn't you used to frequent this place? You mentioned earlier that it was a bar, right? I used to come here a lot. It's been 3 years since I was on Gallant Island. I have a friend who lives here. I see. I thought you were a local because you knew the way so well. Geez, I'll never forget the path I've seen once. Escaping is part of my life. When Marcia took Sharon and sat at the bar, a group of burly men turned to look at them. The combination of a beautiful woman and a boy was out of place. There are people looking at us. Don't worry, this is a bar frequented by troublesome types from the island. If there's an incident, this is the first place to get the news. That way, we know when gives up. But isn't that more dangerous? Gamos' subordinates could come here. Gamos rules the island, not the troublemaker. So this place is sort of a resistance, a community of destiny, you could say. Sharon didn't immediately believe it. In a place where so many people came and went, it was practically impossible to completely control information. This is something that can't be done alone with the system. A treaty or a rule would be possible, but why? What could they gain? As Sharon stared intently, Marcia smirked ironically. Oh my, you're tough. Okay, you're right. This bar is in collusion with Galliant's autonomous government. What happens here is overlooked, even by the authorities as expected. But why would the government do such a thing? Money laundering, creating funds for bribes, lobbying money circulation, etc. That's what Island Gate is about. Should we say it's a system created by the characteristics of a closed island? They agreed to distribute funds from the shadows in exchange for ensuring the safety of criminals. A win-win. Isn't that how the world works? Heh. Marcia clicked her tongue. Her narrowed eyes looked somewhat melancholic. It's funny when you think about it, isn't it? There's a lot of talk about punishing criminals, but in the end, it's the criminals who fill their stomachs. They break down large amounts of money that they can't swallow, making them easier to digest. They're like the microbes of society. Without microbes, life dies. Sharon couldn't respond. The social system that went against human nature was too complicated and colorful for a young boy to judge. I've been too serious. Did you say your name is Sharon? Why did you come to the island? I came to have fun with my friends. We want to swim and see the ruins of Kerugo. I've been there before. I was young back then, but now I'm already 27 and might age like a spinster. How old are you? I'm 18 years old, T, and I don't recall him being that age in the manhwa. I'll have to reread it. Maybe 17 years old. Oh, you're young. Oh, you're younger than I thought. You look very young. Nuna looks younger for her age too. Oh, can I call you Nuna? Sure, it all starts with Nuna. Once we're lovers, you can call me whatever you want. Ho 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 ho. Sharon lifted the corner of his mouth as if it were ridiculous. For an 18-year-old boy, a 27-year-old woman was an adult who couldn't be overlooked. Aside from that, Marcia was a much more intellectual and rational woman than he expected. Their conversation was pleasant, and with his guard down, Sharon shared his experiences in the port. Marcia nodded as if having a hunch and said, "Ah, you got caught by a street vendor. They're quite unpleasant. Still, 5 gold coins were a bit too much. Yes, in the end, I had a disagreement with my companion, and she's not in a good mood. They must be waiting for me now. They'll probably scold me when I return." Marcia checked the time and asked the bartender what happened with Gamos's commotion. While the bartender cleaned the cup as if he were deaf, Marcia placed a silver coin. Then the bartender's mouth opened as if it had never happened. According to the news that arrived 10 minutes ago, it seems to have spread all over the main street. Probably around 40 people are blocking the entire intersection. Oh, still, that person is so persistent. Originally, Gamos' alarm goes off immediately. The lid must have been lifted today. Marcia looked back at Sharon and gave him a playful smile. Sharon had nothing to say since she was the one who blew the lid off Gamos' head. Marcia then returned to the original topic. Anyway, it's good to deal with street vendors in moderation and avoid them. They're kids belonging to an organization. Once you start getting tangled up, it becomes difficult to handle. I see. Actually, I hadn't even thought about that. Heh, do you need to? You're here to have fun, right? But there's always a hidden danger within tourists' enjoyment. The island is small and closed. To share limited resources, you have to compete more fiercely than inland. Sharon etched the fact into his mind. He planned to stay in the island for 10 days, so he was likely to encounter many vendors. Thanks to Marcia's advice, it was less likely for him to cause a serious accident, unlike today, when he didn't know anything. From what he observed during the conversation, Marcia seemed like a very good person. She was kind, witty, and also had the discretion not to hastily judge others' words. Why would such a person steal? Judging by her willingness to tip the bartender, it seemed she wasn't short of money either. I'm not sure if I should ask this, but I'm very curious. Marcia leaned back in her chair and glanced at the ceiling. Hmm. I get worried when you asked, but Sharon, a woman's three sizes are not something you hear, but something you imagine. No, it's not that. Why did you steal the ceramic? Eh? You don't seem like someone who would be a petty thief. And you lied about not having money. Why did you steal the ceramic, which isn't even a useful item? Marcia rested her chin on her hand and began to think. I don't know. Maybe I just felt like stealing it. Really? Is that possible? It's possible. It's called kleptomania. Of course, I wasn't like that from the beginning. I was an orphan. My parents abandoned me when I was 4. A man from the mercenary group picked me up and raised me. He became my foster father. Sharon's heart trembled at the unexpected words. Marcia, like him, was abandoned by her own parents, but it was far from a comfortable life. The mercenary corps is a place full of strange people. When I was 11, one of the wild mercenaries tried to lay hands on me. Fortunately, my foster father found him first and beat him up. Of course, his daughter almost got hurt. Anyone would do that. Heh, would they really? Yes. Marcia looked toward the bar with a sad look. Somehow, her eyes seemed to be moist. I received a piece of bread and a glass of water every day. My foster father didn't give me anything more than that. Clothes, sweets, and toys. In the end, he raised me like cattle. That's when I started stealing from others. One day, I got caught stealing apples, but he paid the fine without resisting. However, when I got home, he changed and started hitting me. Didn't say a word and didn't stop until I passed out. That's too much. If he could pay the fine, wouldn't it be better to buy it in the first place? And why didn't you ask for one? Because that's what my foster father wanted. Submission to him. The only resistance I could put up was to steal something every day. Of course, the days I got caught I was beaten to death. It was a terrible daily life. So one day I gave up everything and I told this to my uncle. Marcia rested her chin in her hand, recalling the past. You can kill me if you want. End of chapter 129. Chapter 130. Gallant Island 6. Sharon felt a lump in his throat. How severely abused must a child be to utter such words? Since that day, those words became a sort of a spell. Every time my foster father beat me, he'd say that it's fine to be killed. Then my foster father stopped beating me and left with an angry expression. Ha, I just lived like that, even when I was 12, 13, until I felt 13, until I left home at 17. You were about my age then. Yes, the right age to open your eyes to the world. Then one day, I finally realized the meaning behind my foster father's actions. No, maybe, I already knew. That's why I didn't ask for anything. Sharon could now guess. Marcia's foster father had a terrible thought that he should never have had. Idiot, if you wanted to, why didn't you just go ahead and do it? Then you wouldn't have entangled me messily for 17 years. In the end, he was a pitiful coward who couldn't do this or that. From then on, I carried the knife on my chest. One day, I saw my foster father's eyes while he was beating me. Ah, I couldn't bear seeing him so pitiful, so I just told him, "You can hug me." Did your foster father do that? Huh. Strangely, there's no twist in this story. He pounced on me as if he'd been waiting, and I stabbed him in the throat with my knife. Honestly, I didn't feel anything. After that, I left home and wandered the world until I arrived here. Sharon was heartbroken when he heard from the concerned person the story he had only heard in books or rumors. An unknown resentment filled him. I don't know what to say. It's okay. Now I just have to eat and live. My foster father died, but my kleptomania didn't disappear easily. This isn't the first or second time I've been in trouble because of it. Oh, when Marcia smiled brightly, Sharon also felt better. She thought she was amazing, knowing how to consider others despite going through such an experience. If it's an unforgettable pain, embracing it is also a path. Nuna doing her best to overcome pain. I'm sure Nuna's kleptomania will soon disappear. Thank you for understanding. If you were thinking of doing something to me tonight, you would have had a hard time. No, I know, don't blush for no reason. It wouldn't be boring if I had a younger brother like you. I feel the same. In fact, I also thought that Nuna Marcia was really like my biological sister. What? Really? Sharon was sincere. The other day, he thought about how he wished he had a brother while observing Rian and Reina's relationship. If he had had a sister, would he feel the same as he did now? Each of her words and actions made Sharon's heart feel at ease. Meanwhile, the waiter who had entered the room came out. He didn't know the details, but it seemed that all sorts of information were being gathered in the room he came out of. Gamos' alarm is off. It seems he found a woman he likes and returned to the mansion to have a party. Phew, fortunately it's not too late. Marcia looked at Sharon with stern eyes. Do you seem to hate being with me so much? A moment ago you were begging in a baby voice. Marcia, please become my real old sister. I didn't say it like that. Sharon also felt regretful. It was the first time he, who was not used to being around women, had a conversation without noticing the passage of time. However, for the sake of his friends in the village, who were waiting with growling stomachs, he had to leave. I think I should head back. Can I see you again? Of course. What are you going to swim back? What? Are you going to swim back? If you're bored, come visit us. I'm planning on staying here. Haha, sure, agreed. As Sharon hastily exited the bar, Marcia ordered a strong drink with a light expression on her face. As expected, two men who had been waiting for their chance approached as if they had been waiting. You're pretty. Maybe because I was drunk with you. I paid more for my drinks than usual. Are you getting a room? This is a place where you never know what might happen to a woman alone. What do you say? Should we go in together? Marcia didn't even turn her head. Get lost before I kill you. What? Did you say something? Do you really want to understand it tonight? The man held the bottle upside down on the table. People turned their attention back to the bar with a sudden sense of tension. As the focus shifted, Marcia sighed inaudibly. Then, suddenly, she changed her attitude and let out a biting laugh. Ho ho ho, all right, let's go to the room, but can you handle it just you two? If you have friends, why don't you bring them? Bring them along. 10 people? No, even 20 is fine. I'll play with you all night. So bring them. I hate it when things get cut in half. The men felt uncomfortable without even knowing why, but Marcia knew. She knew that when sexual competition intensifies, men reveal their innate weakness. What the hell? Seems like she's crazy. Let's get out of here. Yeah, what bad luck. Marcia looked at the departing men as if they were pathetic, then turned her body. Before she knew it, the drink she ordered was ready. She downed it in one go, and heat surged in her throat, warming her mind. This is how alcohol should be. Bartender, one more. Instead of bringing a new glass, the bartender approached and poured directly into Marcia's glass. Are you Marcia? Is there another Marcia around? I heard that the Magic Association is looking for you, but you've been avoiding them so far. Have you decided to join? No, I'll be leaving soon. I just came to settle things. I would appreciate it if you could proceed quietly. If a big shot like you causes a disturbance, the island will be in chaos. We don't want to break the agreement. If you promise to cooperate, you can stay here for a while. Okay, I had no intention of staying here in the first place. The bartender cleaned the beer glass until it squeaked. After being silent for a while, he casually made a comment. The boy must be disappointed. Haha, it's fine. It's normal to experience distress at that age. I thought you liked him. It was fun, haha. To be honest, it was a bit risky. Marcia crossed her arms and looked up at the ceiling. How can such a repulsive human being exist? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The villa was silent, as if there was nobody there. Amy was seated on the couch by the fireplace, and Rian and Tess were too preoccupied staring at her to utter a word. Sharon hadn't arrived. It had already been 2 hours since he went to buy groceries. Unless he was out catching fish in the sea, he should have returned by now. Sharon is running late, huh? Tess, who spoke to break the icy atmosphere, startled herself. Her voice seemed louder than usual. However, Amy kept staring into the darkness, not moving at all. It's like walking on fragile ice. Tess shivered. Amy didn't seem to be in a good mood, as if she could feel the cold. Of course, as a woman, she could understand perfectly. Beyond the significance of a couple's trip, weren't they supposed to be exciting first holidays for both of them? Sharon, you were so thoughtless. This is disappointing for me, too. Tess sided with Amy, thinking one crab sticks to another. This implies that people with similar traits or interests often gravitate towards each other and form close relationships. As a woman, she knew how much Amy had conceded for Sharon. Despite a disagreement at the port, she offered to cook. Men might think it's not a big deal, but for a woman, it was an action that honestly expressed the feeling of, I want to reconcile with you quickly. But Sharon was an hour behind Rian. If he got lost, there might be a reason to worry, but Amy hoped that even those small concerns would be attended to with a sense of responsibility. I'm hungry. Why isn't he coming? Should I go look for him? Rian muttered, clutching his stomach inadvertently. Since he wasn't the type of person to eat a fixed number of meals per day, an hour's delay was a long time to wait. Here is the translation of the text. It's okay, they might miss each other. Really? Then can I eat the potatoes I brought? Tess glared and shouted. Why are you so inconsiderate? Think about Amy. What's the big deal? Sharon did more shopping than I did. It's normal for him to arrive later. Tess was astonished. Even though Sharon wasn't her own partner, she already resonated with Amy, but Rian seemed to hate her. Even if Sharon has a lot to buy, it's natural for him to arrive earlier because he's smarter than you. So it's a very serious matter. You can eat potatoes or scallions in the corner. Why are you so upset? What did I do? Rian scratched his head like a bear. He couldn't be called selfish as he was indifferent even to insults. Amy opened her mouth for the first time. She was trying to smile, possibly feeling sorry for ruining the mood. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Just cook and eat first. I'll eat when Sharon comes. That's not possible, but Rian is hungry. It's because Sharon is late anyway. Let's say we lost. Tess reassured Amy with a tearful expression. It's okay, Amy. I'm actually not hungry at all. We just have to figure out what to do with that food addict. Rian was truly munching on raw potatoes in the corner. He was a man who couldn't even use schema but possessed equivalent strength. In a way, it was unfortunate for him as his calorie intake would be several times higher than a normal person's to maintain his tremendous strength. Unable to reach a conclusion, silence fell and Amy rested her cheek on her knee while putting her feet on the chair. Why isn't he coming? Did something really happen? He's not the type to break his promises. He wasn't so foolish as to make a mistake and delay the time. Perhaps there were unavoidable circumstances. However, no matter how much she consoled herself, she couldn't help but feel disappointed. You brought me here. Apart from you, everyone I'm going to meet today is new. She was alone, even though they had become close. Rian and Tess had a mutual understanding as companions. There was no place for Amy to interfere in their relationship. Knock knock, someone knocked on the door. Tess' face lit up, and Rian clenched his fist, thinking he could finally eat. Is it Sharon? Wait a minute. Before Tess could finish her words, Amy walked to the door. She impulsively opened the door and shouted, Hey, where the hell are you? And what are you doing now? Huh? Amy stood there blinking with the door wide open. It wasn't Sharon, but it wasn't a stranger either. The truth was that it was someone who shouldn't be there. Jeez, with whom they argued at the port was there. What? Why are you coming here? Jay's face turned red. He never thought it would be this woman who would open the door and come out. He gritted his teeth as he remembered the events of the day, but his heart skipped a beat when he saw her unfamiliar figure in comfortable clothing. Gathering his senses, Jeez blatantly inspected the inside of the villa. His abdomen, which was hit by Falcoa, hurt, but there was no distortion in his expression. Ha, wow, this place is really nice. It's different for nobles, isn't it? I asked what's going on. How did you know we were here? I found out by asking around. If the ruler of the port G's decides to do it, it's no big deal. Now you know how sharp I am on this island, right? So, did you come here just to show off that trick? End of chapter 130.